Hello, I'm D-Rex of Pyromaniac.com, and this is the Randy Moss 2010 Fantasy Outlook video. Randy Moss has hands down always been one of my favorite players. Since the first time I saw him in a game for Marshall, he had a storied past where, you know, he was like the best recruit ever. Bowden was saying he's, the best athlete he's ever seen, Deion Sanders level, but just bigger. He actually ran a 4.25, and the guy's, 6'4", 6'5", fleet-footed. He's like Usain Bolt in that way. It's just this tall, lanky, stride kind of guy, but ridiculous. His nickname's Super Freak. But from seeing him in that game, like jumping over people and catching the ball, he was like a gazelle out there. And hearing this background, information where he literally had to go to jail after he got his suspension cut for smoking marijuana at Florida State. So he spent 60 days in jail, then went to Marshall. He was awesome. Storied first round. People passed on him. The Cowboys passed on him. Let's be honest, everyone's really regretting passing on the guy. The Tennessee Titans took Kevin Dyson out of Utah over him with like the 6th pick. He was the guy who came up a yard short of beating Kurt Warner and the St. Louis Rams in an earlier Super Bowl. I bet you if they had Randy Moss, they probably would have won that Super Bowl. Let's be honest. But the Messiah. I mean, the guy is just so friggin' good. Last year he was second for wide receivers and fantasy points with 202.4 in a standard format. He had 13 TDs, which was tied for first. He had 1,264 yards, which was ranked 5th for wide receivers. And this is considered widely as a terrible season. Everyone thought he was down. He had a few big games, whatever. This guy wins fantasy games for you. He wins championships like he did when he was a rookie. He single-handled anyone that drafted that guy, especially if you played in a league that plays rookies, which I highly suggest. He won your season for you. If rookie is a must-start position with something you do in your league, and you had that guy, he won the league for you. He's just been an amazing player. He's gonna potentially, the stat we just put out on our Facebook site is he needs 10 touchdowns over the next 5 seasons to pass Jerry Rice's all-time touchdown list. Might be a stretch because Rice was such a weekend workout warrior, an off-season machine. I just don't think Randy Moss does that quite like Jerry Rice did, where he was able to literally play until he was, I think he was in the Super Bowl catching a touchdown for Oakland when he was 40 years old. Guy's a machine. 5 years, 10 touchdowns, it's possible. There's been a lot of talk this offseason. This is the last season for Randy Moss. Kraft's going to get rid of him. They're not going to pay him. I don't buy any of that. I don't buy any of that. I think Randy Moss has got to be with Tom Brady, and I said this in Tom Brady's Fantasy Outlook video, last week. These guys need each other. If they were together their whole career, it's ridiculous the stats that they would both have. They want to close out their career. Brady's already made taken a pay cut to bring on Randy Moss 3 years ago, or to re-sign him. He's willing to do it again. They need each other. But the guy is just unbelievable. Like I said, he'll win you weeks. He was hurt last year, so he had a separated shoulder, which was nagging him all year. As far as some of the research we've done on our site, it was only in 2007, which is 3 seasons ago, that the guy had 23 touchdowns, break Rice's single-season record, 98 catches, 1,493 yards. That's the season Brady had 50 touchdowns. They almost went undefeated, lost in the Super Bowl, amazing game, just unbelievable that happened. But next season Brady goes down. Moss still had a great season with Cassell, a guy who hadn't started a game since he was in high school. People go back and talk about what a letdown he was for Oakland. I'm not buying that. He was awesome. I had him on my team both years he was in Oakland. He got hurt with a strained quadricep, or bad pull of the quadricep, and he wasn't the same for a year and a half. But the first few games of that season, he was the MVP of the season. I remember I took him early. I remember the first game on Thursday night of the season was against the Patriots. I remember a move that he put on Rodney Harrison like first play of the game, I think, number 18 on the Raiders. That was the most inept coaching staff ever, Art Shell, and they brought that guy who was running bed and breakfasts for the previous 10 seasons. I mean, you can't blame Al Davis's stupidity and just a lack of talent and all this stuff on Randy Moss. He was hurt, you can knock on him for that, but the guy's been pretty sturdy. You know, he's got both put on a bunch of bulk, and I actually like a skinnier Randy Moss. 2 years ago, he looked a little too big. I'm hoping that he comes in about 10 pounds lighter this year, just because his yard after the catch is really low this year. Actually, he ranked 34th in yards after the catch at 427. That's not Randy Moss. He's the kind of guy that when the ball's in his hand, he's busting it. You know, to go back to his rookie season, that amazing 17 TD season that, like I said, if you had him on your team, he was pretty much winning you the championship. He had touchdowns of 52, 44, 46, and 41 yards that season. It's just unbelievable, and he still does that. He still puts up those long touchdowns, and he's a weapon. I usually take him in the first round. I'm in a pass-heavy league, but I usually like to take him in the first round. You know, I think the way that there's so many running back by committee situations, you got to go high on, you know, the elite wide receivers, and I think Moss is right there with Andre Johnson. I mean, upside, no one's got more upside than Moss. He showed that 3 seasons ago or whatever. So, you know, you just gotta take this guy. So I would go super high on him. Their offensive line is number 2 against the blocks. They're great protection for Brady. Brady's 2 years removed from surgery. You know, again, I take Randy Moss all the time. I go high on him. He's a guy that I target on, and I love him. So I go high on him, and you know, he does you right. Even on a down season like last year, he's doing better than anybody else. So Randy Moss, got nothing but great things to say about him. The naysayers and all that Joe Buck bullshit with the mooning and how he's gotten so much bad press as a bad person, don't believe any of it. The guy's a backwoods homebody, likes to fish and hangs out in his gated community and just chills out and stays to himself. This guy is, you know, he's just not out there in the limelight. He's a stay-at-home. He's a loner. He's just the kind of guy you want. They're hungry, you know. They're hungry. This is a contract year. I'm going to close it out on that. Randy Moss, contract year. Best wide receiver of the last, you know, since the millennium. Best wide receiver. Probably the best wide receiver leading up to that. You know, he's been the best wide receiver pretty much for the last 14 years. Somewhere in that range. 13 years. So take this guy. Anyone that's labeled as a bigger version of Deion Sanders is the kind of guy you want the ball touching his hands. So there you go, Randy Moss. Keep checking out Pyromaniac. We're about to kick it into high gear with these videos. And we're launching the Fantasy Football Pharmacy in about 2 weeks. Just ironing out the kinks right now and putting everything into motion. Then hot on the heels of that is the Pyromaniac redesign, launching a lot of new features. It's really exciting times. So we're busy as hell over here. Our practitioners are taking care of stuff for you. We want to help you win your league, and keep following us, and we promise to do so. Thanks.